Hey everybody, welcome to the GMG review. Today we're taking a look at Warhammer Age of Sigmar, the Cities of Sigmar. This is the Army Box version of the Battletome, which was kindly sent as a complimentary review copy by Games Workshop. And here we have the previous one. Now, I'm going to be checking these two out, doing a little bit of dare to compare, and doing a look at the new units for the most part. I'm not going to focus on individual unit changes, more on like a total overview of what is keyly different about this book. I'm also going to do a separate review to talk about the models themselves, because they are, whew, man, they're very cool. I'm very happy with the new miniatures. But we've said goodbye to some stuff as well. So that is the first thing to do. So let's break this into three parts. First, we're going to do a what's the overview, what's different about this book compared to this book that I'm holding in my hand right here. What is the sort of like strategic change? What are some of the new units like, and the new armies, and then more of like an overview than like an individual breakdown of the rules. There'll be lots of people doing that today. I'm more of a like big picture, what is the business doing with this book kind of guy. So that's where I focus. And then talking about the units themselves and how they kind of stack up against their historic counterparts, which people might have in their armies. So let's talk about this book before we get too far into this book. This is the Cities of Sigmar book, which was published originally in, I think it's 2021 or maybe 2020. It's from 2019. Oh my God, it's older than I thought it was. 4 years old. And this book was a breath of fresh air at the time, because what it did was it kind of ratified in a lot of the world that was stuff. So like this Hammer Hall picture right here is a good example of what we're talking about when we're saying, oh, so we wanted to mix the old with the new. We had all these legacy units from the original Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and they needed a home. So the Cities of Sigmar basically gave them that. So for those of you new to the game or don't know all this stuff already, I'm probably just speaking stuff you already know, but if you're not, that was kind of what Games Workshop did in 2019, and it actually made most people fairly happy. Obviously some legacy units fell out, but it gave a home to some stuff that didn't fit into contextually the like going away completely. It wasn't like a named character or associated with like a certain person in the world that was. And the cities themselves kind of showed that, like, yeah, now that Azur's kicked the doors open, the Stormcast taken back ground, there are these like sort of like I guess like embassies of order that have sprung up everywhere, and people are collecting together into these massive cities where they are kind of a melting pot. Now that melting pot idea is kind of one of the things that's going away, where your armies are fairly distinctly divided now between whom they are representing sort of keyword wise, but originally, you had everything from the Free Guild, which was like the old Empire militia models, the Free Brigade of like the Zealots and stuff like that, and then of course things like the Dispossessed, the Dwarves, the Wanderers, which were the Wood Elves, and the, I can't remember what the keyword was for, I think it was just Elf, for all of the old High Elf stuff that were all put together. So you had rules for everything from like the Flamespire Phoenix and the Frostheart Phoenix to Hammers, Gyrocopters and Gyrobombers, and then of course even the Dark Elves like the Dread Spears, the Sorceress, and the Executioners. And then, of course, all of the old Empire stuff was basically put into what was called the Free Guild. Now, some of these models do remain in the army. They tend to be the most recently released of those armies. So, like, for instance, the Griffin model is still in there, the Celestial Hurricane. If it came out around 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle, the model is still in this book. But some are conspicuously absent, notably all the High Elf and Wood Elf stuff, the Wanderers and the... I can't remember what it's like. What was the keyword? I could just look, Ash. You could just look. So it was Wanderers. That's right, for the Wood Elf stuff, and then for the High Elf stuff, the keyword was Shadow Warriors. They were Shadow Warriors and Shadow Blades. I think their keywords were kind of all over the place, to be honest with you, because they were also in there. No, it's Nomad Prince. Come on, Flamespire Phoenix. Oh, maybe you were like earlier. Maybe they didn't put all the elves together. Ash, maybe you could just go look at the beginning and find them. No, that's a Dark Elf. That's a Celestial Hurricanum. Why am I just blind here? Imagine I was looking at the wrong book. Imagine I was looking at the new book and you were all just screaming at the thing right now. Ironweld Arsenal. There we go, Phoenix Guard. They were Phoenix Temple. That's what it was. That's right, because it was just the Phoenix stuff. It was the two Phoenixes and the Phoenix Guard. So the Phoenix Temple stuff is also gone. They're just not in here as far as I can tell. What we have instead is we have all the Dark Elf stuff, the War Hydra, the Scourge Runners, the Assassins, and the Cryptus. So they kept the Dark Elves, they kept the Dispossessed, and it seems like everybody else we've kind of said goodbye to. So sort of a phasing out. Now, that also goes for all of the units of individual sort of like free guild stuff, with the exception of the Marshal on the Griffin and the Wizard on the Griffin. Where are you? The Flagellants, they stay around the Freak Brigade, and also the Celestial Hurricane and the Battle Mages. So the Battle Mages on the Griffin, the Battle Mages on foot, which are an amazing kit. Actually, it still holds up really well because you make so many different ones. And the Hurricanum and Luminarchs are still on here. But everything else gets cool, new, very interesting models. Oh, sorry, and the Steam Tank. And the Steam Tank's in here as well. Everything else is mostly just new miniatures. So the kind of downforce on that melting pot idea is the first thing that's really different in this book. And that's representative too in the, and let's jump in and talk about it, the armies themselves. So when you pick a city, and you have to pick a city, or sorry, it actually says you can pick one of the following sub-factions for your army. All Cities of Sigmar units gain that keyword. So it's Hammerhall Aksha or Hammerhall Guerrilla, because it's the two sides of the portal. Tempest Eye, Hallowheart, Living City, Greywater Fastness, Lethis, Vindicarum, Excelsius, Sellers Gain, and Misthaven. You're going to get different orders on top of the base orders that you get. And then you're going to get and the orders affect from different characters to different heroes. So like if you're an elf, you can't give a human an order. And where's all our cities? Those city keywords will then unlock certain other things in addition to battle lines. So like for instance, Hammerhall Aksha, you get officers of the Academy Marshal. When orders are being given to a friendly Hammerhall Aksha hero, one of those units can be given 2 orders instead of 1. And then if you're commanding a Hammerhall Aksha, you can include an allied event as Fire Strike. And at the start of your hero phase, you receive an additional command point if that model's in the battlefield. You'll find that there's not tons of things that allow you to take things in your army. They're still allies. So even Living City, they get Sylvaneth as allies, but they're still allies. They're not, coalition units. Yeah. So it's all just allies, even if you're in the city that those things are from, which I think is going to, some collections are going to get a little lopsided in here. But the allies do make sense based on those different coalitions forces. So like the Cities of Sigmar can ally with Daughters of Cain, Fire Slayers, Deepkin, Carrigan Overlords, Lumineth Realm Lords, Stormcast Eternals, and Sylvaneth, except in a Greywater Fastness army. The Sylvaneth won't join that. But basically every order army is allied to you, and you can take your order allies as you like. So that is a big change, because in this previous book, what it was you had kind of like a list of allies that was just as long. So Daughters, Fire Slayers, Idoneth, Deepkin, Carrigan Overlords, except in Tempest Eye, and Sylvaneth, except in Living City or Greywater Fastness. But it was that the cities themselves allowed you to take those units as like, I think it was an early version of coalition unit. I can't remember if it was actually that term at this point in 2019. But yeah, so like for instance, Greywater Fastness, where is it? Must be from Garan, because you actually had to pick that back then. Yeah, here we go. So Living City, for instance, Living City included Sylvaneth units, and 1 in 4 units can be a Sylvaneth unit. Yeah, it was the early version of coalition that allowed you to take those things. And that's kind of gone now. That's just not in the book anymore. The focus really being on the humans themselves. So that's the big overview. That's part 1. That's what's kind of different overall about the army. And if you're taking a free city, the free city doesn't necessarily unlock a ton of different stuff, because you're still taking allies, which means you're still typically locked to like 400 points for the army. There is a few different battle line units. So for instance, Steam Tanks can be taken as battle line if you have a Steam Tank commander. Corsairs can be battle line if the general is a Scourge Privateer. Blackguard if you're Darkling Coven. And then Drakespawn Knights if you're Order Serpentis. So like even if you're taking the Dark Elves, only one of those things becomes battle line based on who your general is. Flagellants if your army includes Pontifex Zenestra, the matriarch of the Great Wheel. And then your Fusiliers, for each Free Guard Sentinels unit in your army, 1 unit can be included as a battle line unit. And then Free Guard Cavaliers if you're a Free Guild. So the Free Guild keyword unlocks a whole bunch of battle line, and your native battle line is Bleak Swords, Dread Spears, Free Guild Steel Helms, Iron Breakers, Longbeards, and that's it. So you do get some unlocks, but it's basically who your general is, not the city anymore that's going to be giving you some battle line units. So that's it. So that's kind of like the big overview. So let's talk about how we're going to end up playing this. So there's a neat new page in this Battletome, and it's the Building Your Army Battletome, and that's kind of like the old 3 ways to play. So it's, are you doing the core book, which is like open? Are you doing Path to Glory, a narrative play battle pack, or are you doing pitch battles? So you pick one of your 3 ways to play. So you choose your battle pack now, that's what it's called. And you choose your sub-faction, of which there's 11. Choose your units and your roster, and then your finishing touches, like are you including any battalions and taking any enhancements? And they're different for humans, dwarves, and elves. Then you have your battle traits. And again, this is very like spread out compared to in the past. We used to have like a block with all the battle traits in it. This is very like, hey, here's all the battle traits, but on different pages. So first pick your free city, then your orders. So your orders are if you command a Cities of Sigmar army, you can give orders to friendly heroes. Orders are represented by order tokens, and each token has 2 sides. They're actually included in the box, which is kind of handy. One side shows the Cities of Sigmar one, and the other shows one of the orders itself. At the start of the battle round, after priority roll has been made, you can give 1 order to each friendly Cities of Sigmar hero, and if you do so, pick one of the orders in the pages later and put the order face out next to them. No more than 3 friendly heroes can have the same order at the same time, but they're basically like, you pick your order effects, kind of. Orders marked Cities of Sigmar can be given to any Cities of Sigmar hero, but if it's human, dwarven, or elf, it has to be given to that respective order person, or hero. And then they remain secret until they're revealed. That's why they go face down. Each order will state when it can be revealed and how it's resolved. A friendly unit cannot be affected by the same order more than once in a phase. At the end of the battle round, all orders are removed from play and then put back down. So after you do your initiative, you lay out your orders face down. It's a little like Star Wars Armada with the order tokens, where like they're like a double blind placement of them, and your opponent won't know what they are, which kind of adds I like that level to it. It's a good little piece of like basic game design. So 2 basic ones anyone can do. Advance in formation. You can reveal this order at the start of your movement phase. If you do so until the end of the phase, add 3 to the move characteristic of your Cities of Sigmar units until the start of if they start a normal move within 3 of that hero. In addition, at the end of the phase, friendly Castellite units with the fortified position ability can establish a fortified position even if they made a normal move, as long as they're within 3 of the hero with this order. So like your Fusilier guys with the big like Pavisas, they can walk forward and still drop their shields, which is handy. Then Cities of Sigmar order countercharge. You can reveal this order at the end of the enemy charge phase. If you do so, pick 1 friendly Cities of Sigmar unit that is more than 3 inches from all enemy units and is within 3 of a hero with this order. You can attempt to charge that unit. So your cavalry can sit in the back next to a hero, and after everyone's on their charges, maybe into your steel helms, you can then reveal that and the cavalry can charge back in afterwards. In addition, if you make a charge move this phase, improve the rend characteristic of the unit's melee weapons by 1. So not only does it let you make a charge in the opponent's charge phase, it also lets you improve your rend, which is kind of cool. So each of them kind of have 2 effects, and they're usable by everybody. Then there's 3 human, 2 dwarven, and 2 elf. So the human orders are return fire. Reveal this order when a friendly unit within 3 of a hero with this order is targeted by a shooting attack. If you do so, after all the enemy's shooting attacks have been resolved, pick a friendly human Cities of Sigmar unit more than 3 from all enemy units within 3 of the hero with this order, and the unit can immediately shoot. So basically get like a counter fire. It's almost like an Overwatch ability in 40k. It gets suppressing fire, but you have to say it in the serial voice. You have to yell for suppressing fire and then don't look while you shoot. You can reveal this order at the start of your shooting phase. If you do so, pick 1 friendly Cities of Sigmar hero within 3, and they have to be human. After that unit shoots, if all of its attacks targeted the same enemy, roll 2d6 and add the number of models slain. If it's higher than their bravery, they get strike last until the end of the turn. That's very cool, actually. And then a human order engage the foe. You can reveal this at the start of your charge phase. When this order is revealed, pick a friendly human Cities of Sigmar unit that's more than 3 from all the enemy units and is not yet fought and is within 3 of the hero with this order. And then they can make a charge. In this phase, add 1 of the attack characteristics of that unit's melee weapons until the end of the following phase. So basically, when you're about to charge somebody, you reveal this order. If you're within 3 of the hero, they get to add +1 of their attack characteristic when they make that charge. Well, they have to make the charge, obviously. So those are all issued by human heroes and available to human units when you do that. So this is like the free guild one. So really this page is the new stuff page if you're just using the new stuff. The Dwardens can form a shield wall, reveal at the start of the enemy combat phase. If you do so, pick a Cities of Sigmar Dwarden unit that has 5 more models and within 3 of the hero with this order. That unit forms into a shield wall until the end of the phase, while a unit's within a shield wall, they get a 5+ ward. So they strike last but have a 5+ ward. So think about that when you're thinking of your Longbeards. So like Longbeards, they have a 4+ save, they get a 5+ shrug. Hammers, 4+ save, 5+ shrug. They also have like flee benefits and stuff too. Although the hammers wouldn't really need it because they get a 4+ ward while they're within 3 of a Warden King, which is neat. Ironbreakers though, 3+ save, 5+ shrug. And they get a 4+ shrug from Gromro Shield Wall. So really that's who you want to attach that to is the Ironbreakers. With their 1 wound. I wish they still had 2 wounds. I think they had 2 wounds at some point. Nope, they've all got 1 wound. Ugh, you poor fools. The Fire Slayers are so much tougher than you. And then the Dwarden order, Grim Last Stand. You can reveal this order at the start of your combat phase. If you do so, pick one friendly Cities of Sigmar Dwarden unit that's within 3 of the hero with this order. Until the end of the phase, each of the models slain on a 5+, the enemy unit takes a mortal wound. So pick a unit within 3, and they fight back when they die, basically. So those are the Dwarden ones, and then 2 elf orders, strike them down. You can reveal this. It's funny it says elf, but like it should just be Darkling Covens, because I don't think anybody else can do it. Because I don't think they affect allies. Nope. Because it has to be Cities of Sigmar elf. Yeah, so your allied units wouldn't get the keyword. If that unit, strike them down, you can reveal this at the start of the charge phase, pick a friendly Cities of Sigmar elf unit that's within 3 of a hero with this order. If that unit makes a charge move this turn, it gets strike first. And then Swift Disengage, you can reveal this order at the end of the combat phase. If you do so, pick a friendly Cities of Sigmar elf unit that's within 3 of the hero with this order, and they can immediately retreat. They have to be within 3 of the enemy, though, so you can't use it just to get a free retreat move when you're not you can't double move with it, basically, because they thought of that. Then we've got a bunch of different command traits. Again, 1 for each keyword. There's 3 for the elves and the Dwarden. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 for the humans. So you get Divine Champion. If you're not a priest, you become a priest. In addition to any other Hammer Sigmar prayer that you know this one, Hammer Sigmar. It answers on 4, range 12. If answered until the start of your next hero phase, add 1 of the wound rolls for attacks made by melee weapons by friendly Cities of Sigmar units wholly within the range of the chanter. So 12-inch aura for +1 wound that are human. Grizzled Veteran, you get a only wound, basically you get transhuman physiology. Free guild only, wound rolls made that target this general only wound on an unmodified roll of 4+. Master of Ballistics, if this general issues the all-out attack command to a friendly cast a light unit in the shooting phase, add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made with missile weapons by that unit in that phase, and this effect is in addition to the normal all-out attack effect. You get +1 to hit and +1 to wound if you shoot. And then Fiery Temper, you can reroll charge rolls for the general. In addition, if this general makes a charge move in the same turn, you can reroll charge rolls for friendly Cities of Sigmar human units while they're within 18. So again, fairly bellicose command abilities, like +1 hit and wound for ballistics with shooting, getting everybody in with the charges. And the Grizzled Veteran one, obviously very good for monstrous characters, because if you target the general, it's only on a 4. So you can't use it on the character model, but you could have a Battle Mage on a Griffin, you could have even just the Free Guild Cavalier Marshal or the Free Guild Marshal on a Griffin. It's 15 wounds with a 4+ save. And that's pretty cool. And then it's got that sweet, only wound me on a 4+. Can't give it to Talia Vedra, though, because she's a character. All right, Lords of the Mountain, the Dwarden. You get Of Mighty Lineage. At the start of the combat phase, you can say this general issue a challenge. If you do so, pick an enemy hero within 3. Until the end of that phase, you strike first, but all the attacks must target that hero. Insurmountable Resilience. At the start of each combat phase, roll a die for every wound allocated to them. On a 3+, the wound's healed. So that sounds really good until you realize how few wounds the dwarves have. They don't have a ton of wounds because they're all just dudes on foot. So it's like 6 wounds, 5 wounds, and that's the only 2 heroes, I'm pretty sure. It's Rune Lord and Warden King. I don't think there's any other heroes. Oh, the Cogsmith with 5 wounds. So that sounds amazing until it's like you could just die in 1 turn. And then finally, Master of Ancient Lore. You become a priest, and you know additional rune lore prayer scripture if you do. So the dwarf ones, again, pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of focus on the elves and the dwarves in this book, so they're pretty straightforward and useful. I mean, they're useful, but they're not fancy. For the dreaded leaders, because they're all dark elves, it's going to be elf generals only. Unparalleled Duelist. For each hit roll for an attack made with a melee weapon that targets the general that does not score a hit, the attacking unit suffers a mortal wound. So if you miss this guy, it's -1. So you want to grab yourself a -1 to hit magic item if you can. Secretive Warlock, wizards only. Add 1 of the casting and unbinding rolls. That's nice. Draconic Blood Pact, hero on a black dragon only. At the start of the combat phase, you can say that this general will draw power from its Draconic Blood Pact. If you do so, this general suffers a mortal wound that cannot be negated, however, until the end of the phase. Add 1 of the attack characteristics of the weapons this general's mount is armed with. So the dragon goes crazy. All right, now same thing for artifacts. It's 1 for each, and same with spells. For the artifacts, it's all the human heroes. You get the Brazier of Holy Flame. Roll a dice each time a model would flee from a friendly Cities of Sigmar human unit that's wholly within 12 of the bearer. On a 4+, they don't flee. Maestro Vivetti's Magnificent Mastroscope. Add 3 of the range characteristic of missile weapons for Cities of Sigmar humans, wholly within 12. Shemtek's Grimoire for a wizard. Once per battle, at the start of the enemy hero phase, you can say the bear will conjure a storm. If you do so, roll a d3. Until the end of that phase, subtract the amount of that roll from the casting rolls made by enemy wizards. So once per game, just minus d3 to cast. Anywhere on the table. Sigmarite Warhammer. Pick one of the bearer's melee weapons, improve the rend characteristic of that weapon by 1, and add 1 to the damage characteristic of the weapon. Which is kind of cool, because like a Sigmarite Warhammer on, like, again, like a bigger guy. Like, let's say, again, that Free Guild Marshal, you're talking about his raised rune sword would be 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, minus 1 damage, 3. 2s and 3s, minus 1 damage, 3. So that's pretty great. Is it hit and damage? Sorry, improve the rend and damage of 1. Yeah, so it's 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, minus 2, 3 damage. That's a pretty great weapon. I would take that in a minute. And then Flask of Lethesian Darkwater. Once per battle at the start of the phase, of any phase, you can say that the bearer will sip it. If you do so, you can heal d6 wounds. And then Glimmering. Once per battle, you can reroll 1 hit roll, 1 wound roll for an attack made by the bearer, or 1 save roll for an attack that targets the bearer. So again, pretty fighty. They're pretty bellicose. Like, there's one kind of like support one in the Nobody Flees, and then another one in the shooting range, and then the -3, but then these ones are all sort of like heal me, rerolls, and make my weapon really good. So it's an aggressive set of fairly straightforward artifacts. Also fairly generic, so that you could use them with an older model collection, which I kind of appreciate. All right, for the dwarves, Ancestor Relics. The Book of Grudges. At the start of your hero phase, if a bearer is more than 3 from all enemy units, you can say that they will read the Book of Grudges. If you do so, pick an enemy unit that is visible to the bearer and roll a dice. On a 4+, the grudge is found, and you add 1 to hit rolls for the Dwarden units that target that unit until the next grudge is found. So basically, you're always +1 to hit those guys until you find another grudge. The Pile Driver Gauntlets, which I love the name of. At the start of the combat phase, if this unit's within 3 of enemy units, it will strike the ground, and if you do so, the bearer cannot fight. However, roll a dice for every enemy unit within 3 of the bearer. On a 4+, they strike last. So you get the stomp from the treatment. And a Heavy Metal Ingot. Ignore negative modifiers to save rolls for attacks that target the bearer if they've not made a move in the same turn. So you stand still and you ignore rend, basically. But not positive, just negative. Then a Shadow Shroud Ring. Once per battle at the start of your hero phase, you can say that the bearer will use this ring. If you do so until the start of your next hero phase, the bearer is not visible to enemy units that are more than 12 away. So you can disappear for an elf. Good one for the dragon, obviously. But it's only once per battle. A Venom Fang Blade. Pick one of the bearer's melee weapons. If an unmodified wound roll for the attack is a 6, that attack causes d3 mortal wounds in addition to any damage it inflicts. And then finally, the Anklet of Epiphany. Wizard only. Add 6 inches to the range of spells cast by the bearer while the bearer is wholly on a terrain, feature, or contesting an objective. So you want to just sit on your like home base objective thing, and or just on your home piece of terrain, and then just get tons of spell range, which is pretty cool. All right, and then we're into spell lores. So this is for the humans, the elves, and then finally the dwardens get prayer scriptures instead, because they don't obviously cast spells because they're dwarves. And if they did that, then the world would be completely upside down. Spell lores for the lore of the Collegiate Arcane. Human, including unique units only. So you get a Fireball. I love that these are just the really old, like 6th and 7th edition spells. It's cast 6, 18-inch range, pick an enemy unit, roll a dice for each model unit on a 6, take mortal wound. A Mystifying Miasma, cast on 5 with a 24-inch range. If you cast it, pick an enemy unit within range invisible. They're -2 to charge rolls until the next phase, because they get confused and lost. Pall of Doom, cast on 7, range 18. If successful, pick an enemy unit within range invisible of the caster. The enemy unit cannot issue or receive commands until the next hero phase. That one's pretty great, actually. Faw's Protection, cast on 7, range 18. Pick a human unit wholly within range, invisible to the caster. Has to be Cities of Sigmar, obviously. And then you can ignore modifiers positive or negative to your save rolls until the next wizard or hero phase. And then Reign of Jade, cast on 7, range 12 inches. Pick a friendly Cities of Sigmar human unit wholly within range invisible. Roll a dice for each wound currently allocated to them. On a 5+, the wound is healed. That feels slightly less useful because you're mostly 1 or 2 wounds. You're not going to have a lot of wounds. It's going to be one guy who's ever wounded in a unit. I would have made that dice roll easier for that spell. Like I would have made it a 4 or a 3. Because you don't have tons of like hugely multi-unit units, but you could pick, I guess you could pick your monsters. So maybe that's why they made it slightly easier. It's only really going to be great on the monsters. Transmutation of Lead, it's cast on 7, range 12. You have to pick an enemy unit within range invisible. Roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in that unit. For each roll that equals or exceeds their save, they take a mortal wound. That's pretty cool, especially for like more heavily armored units. Twin-tailed Comet, cast on 7, range 18. Pick one enemy unit within range invisible. Draw a straight line between the caster and one model in that unit. Until the end of the turn, each friendly human unit that the line passes over has a bravery of 10, and the enemy unit picked suffers D3 mortal wounds. So you basically like, you draw the line, you mark them all being bravery 10, and then that unit that you touch takes D3 mortal wounds. And then finally, Wild Form, cast on 7, range 12. Human unit wholly within range invisible. Until the start of your next hero phase, you can attempt to charge if you're within 18, and you charge 3d6 instead of 2d6. Pretty cool. So all the human ones, basically cool variations of like the OG spells. Then we're into the elves, the Lore of Dark Sorcery. So you have Sap Strength, cast on 6, range 18. If you cast it, pick an enemy unit within range invisible. Subtract 1 from wound rolls they make until the next hero phase. That's all attacks, not just melee and not just ranged. Umbral Hex, cast on 6, range 12. If successfully cast, pick an enemy unit within range invisible until the start of your next hero phase. Each time a battle shock test is made for that unit, 2d6 must be rolled instead of 1. And it's not pick, it's just add them together. And Tenebral Blades, cast on 7, a range of 9. Pick a friendly Cities of Sigmar elf unit wholly within range invisible, so it's very short ranged. But until the start of your next hero phase, when making save rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by that elf unit, the target's save characteristic is dash. So you basically become like Vorpal, which is why the range on that is very short. It's kind of Mind Razor, but almost better because your save is just dash. That spell's wild. It means your wizard's going to be right up in the middle of stuff, but like that spell is wild. Save dash. It's not a rend, it's not a modifier. Your save counts as dash. That means it works against anything with unmodifiable saves. Woof. Woof. So good. And then your prayers. So these are for the Dwarden. You get Rune of Unfaltering Aim. It's answered on a 3 in range 12. Pick a friendly Dwarden unit wholly within range invisible and add 1 to the hit rolls for ranged attacks until your next hero phase. Only the Cities of Sigmar Dwarden though. No allies, no giving it to the boats. The Rune of Oath and Steel, it's a prayer with a range value, or sorry, a casting value, answer value, Ash, get it right, read, 3 and a range of 12. If answered, pick a friendly Cities of Sigmar Dwarden unit wholly within range invisible to the chanter, and your -1 to Rune rolls for attacks that target them. And then finally, Rune of Wrath and Ruin. Answered on 3 and range 18, pick an enemy unit visible and roll 6 dice. For every 5+, take a mortal wound. In addition, if you take 3 or more mortal wounds, then that unit is ruined until the end of your next, the start of your next hero phase. While it's ruined, ignore positive modifiers for save rolls for attacks that target that enemy unit, so they don't get to all-out defense. Or anything else that gives them a positive save, like magic. All right, free cities. So all 11 of these suckers, my God. And this is it. So it used to be like its whole own army. It's very much just like an ability basically now. Some get 2. Hammerhell Aksha and Hammerhell Gira. No, it's just Hammerhell Aksha is one that gets 2. Because it's the Aventus thing. So I already went over that one. You can give 2 orders instead of 1 when your orders are being given to friendly Hammerhell Aksha heroes. They can get 2 instead of 1, but they must be different. And then the Magister of Hammerhall, if your command Hammerhall Aksha army, then of course Aventus is in your army, you get 1 extra command point in your hero phase. Tempest's Eye, friendly Tempest's Eye, Caradron, Overlord, allied sky vessels can retreat and shoot in the same turn. Hallowheart, Wild Magic. When you attempt to cast a spell with a friendly Hallowheart Wizard, you can say they'll harness the Wild Magic. If you do so, roll 3 dice instead of 2 from the casting roll. However, an unmodified roll of 10+, they take D3 mortal wounds after any effects were resolved. So you're just pumping out the magic. Hammerhell Gira, when you picking an army, if the battle pack you're using has restrictions on the number of reinforced units you can include 1 additional Cities of Sigmar reinforced unit in your army. So basically you can reinforce multiple units, or 1 extra. In addition, friendly Hammerhall Gira human units have a bravery characteristic of 10 while they have 10 or more models. So you take big steelhead units, you can have massive like bravery on those units, and they're really hard to make run. And then Living City. During deployment, instead of setting up a Living City unit or an allied Sylvaneth unit in the battlefield, you can place it to one side and say that it is in the Hidden Paths. You can set up 1 Hidden Paths unit for each Living City unit you have in the battlefield. At the end of the movement phase, you can set up 1 or more of these reserve units on the battlefield, wholly within 6 of an edge and 9 from all enemy units. It's kind of like the Ride the Lightning the Stormcast get, except it's got to be near a battlefield edge. All right, the guns, Greywater Fastness, a Greywater Welcome. You can use all-out attack up to 3 times in your shooting phase. In addition, the first 2 times a friendly Greywater Fastness unit receives it, a command point is not spent. So you just get to get 2 free all-out attacks for your guns. Lethis, that one's going to be real popular, I think. Lethis, get the Raven Priests. Friendly Lethis human heroes that are not wizards become priests automatically. In addition, friendly Lethis human priests and friendly allied Stormcast Eternal Priest know the following prayer, which is Morta's Embrace. It's a prayer with an answer value of 4 and a range of 12. If answered, pick an enemy unit within range invisible, and ward saves cannot be made for that unit until the start of your next hero phase. That can be very powerful. And then Vindicarum. Unyielding Faith. Friendly Vindicarum units can receive the Rally command while they're within 3 of enemy units. In addition, while a friendly Flagellance unit receives the Rally command, you can return a slain model on a 5 instead of 6. So the Freak Brigade. Then Excelsius. Fearsome Breed. Add 1 to the wound characteristic for your monsters. In addition, each time a friendly Cavaliers unit fights, if all the attacks have been resolved, pick 1 enemy unit within 3 of the Cavalry unit and roll a dice for each model in that unit on a 4+ take a mortal wound, because they have fierce steeds. Settlers Gain, get Expert Instruction. Add 1 of the casting rolls for each friendly Settlers Gain wizards. In addition, at the start of each hero phase, you receive an additional command point if the model picked to be your general is within 3 of any friendly allied Lumineth Realmlord heroes. So basically, you got to take an ally, but you get that sweet extra command point, I guess. And then finally, Misthaven, Shadowed Approach. At the end of your hero phase, you can pick up to 3 different friendly Misthaven units that are more than 12 from the enemy. Each of these units can move D6. If they have mounts, they can move 2D6, but they can't finish within 3 of the enemy. So I actually really like that one. Being able to move and like grab objectives and stuff like that could be very powerful. I like the Misthaven one quite a bit. Obviously, the mechanical power of Greywater Fastness is great. And the Hammerhall action one with 2 orders instead of 1 can be very powerful, as you've now seen the orders. And that's your army rules. Path to Glory. It's about founding and building a city, which I think is cool. So the quests are all about like going over the mountains, the forests, the mires, the plains, and taking them over and then building a city, which is very appropriate for this army, like theme for your stuff. And I think this would be a very fun army to play Path to Glory with. I'm trying to decide what to do with the army box, and Path to Glory actually feels like a good thing to do maybe in the new year. Do like New Year, New Army, the Path to Glory campaign with these guys, and just paint them until then. And then we've got our match play stuff, our grand strategies. So 4 of them. We have Tenets of War, Exemplar of the Academe Marshal. When you complete this grand strategy at the end of the battle, if you did at least 4 battle tactics, and every battle tactic you completed was from the For Glory and Honor. So you gotta do 4 of these to get your thing. Reclaim for Sigmar. When the battle ends, you complete this if there's at least 1 friendly Cities of Sigmar unit in every quarter of the battlefield. Hold the High Ground. When the battle ends, you complete this if you have any friendly units within 12 of the center and no enemy units are within 12 of the center. And Banners Held High. When the battle ends, each battle player totals the number of standard bearers and units with the totem keyword in their army that are on the battlefield. If your total is higher, you complete this grand strategy. Honestly, that one feels like the easiest of these 4, because there's tons of units that don't even have banners in Age of Sigmar. Yeah, I feel, and like almost all of these units do. So I feel like Banners Held High might, but again, your like most killable units are also ones with the banners. So there's, yeah, I can't decide. I think I like Banners Held High the best, because getting people outside of 12 in the middle is really hard. Reclaim and Banners Held High, I think, are the 2 obvious choices if you're going to take one of the Tenets of War ones. I never like the ones where you have to try and complete 4 out of these 6. Let's talk about battle tactics though. First, bring full arms to bear. Pick an enemy unit. You complete this if it's destroyed that turn as a result and was suppressed as a result of the suppressing fire hoarder. So basically, you have to kill them and also suppress them. Raise the banner. Pick an objective controlled by your opponent. You complete this tactic if you control that objective at the end of the turn and a friendly free guild command corps that includes a Great Herald contests it. So there's a prerequisite unit for that one, so I don't particularly like that one. Black Powder Bombardment. You complete this battle tactic if 3 or more enemy units are destroyed in your shooting phase this turn. Again, not easy to do. Mount the Charge. Pick an objective controlled by your opponent. You complete this tactic if you control that objective at the end of this turn, and every friendly unit that contests it has a mount and made a charge move. Again, you need to build an army around that one, just like you do the shooting ones. Strike Without Warning. You complete this battle tactic if 3 or more friendly Cities of Sigmar Elf units made a charge move this turn, and Iron Might. You complete this battle tactic at the end of the turn. If 3 or more friendly Cities of Sigmar Dwarven units fought this turn and no friendly Cities of Sigmar Dwarven units were destroyed. So getting all 4, you'd have to have a mix of elves, dwarves, which puts like a fracture point on being able to complete them. And then also a free guild command core to make all these available. And then you'd also have to have suppressing fire and black powder bombardment, which requires humans again. So it's not super easy to do. So yeah, I don't love these. I think the core ones are always going to be easier, which means that you're not going to want to take that Tenet of War. You're going to want to either Reclaim for Sigmar or Banners Held High, I think, are the two obvious choices if you're going to grab one from the Grand Strategies. So Core Battalion, you get Castellate Formation. It's a Fusel Major on an Ogre, Free Guild Fusiliers or Steel Helms, and then a Ironwell Great Cannon. So it's basically like probably the Vanguard box for these guys, I'm imagining, is going to be what's in here. And it's unified, and it also has Slayer, so you get a free all-out attack or Unleash Hell. And we're into units. So there you go. So there's the army stuff. So like I said, quite a departure from this book over here, where your army really did dictate what you're taking. In this one, you can take an army, take kind of anything, and you'll usually, like some of them you get the benefit for if you're playing humans. You're typically going to want to build around them, but they're not as huge a deal structurally to your army, where taking units is more important. Again, for those people that had like giant blobs of Phoenix Guard and stuff, or Phoenixes, that are gone. So you're going to be taking some new stuff anyway. So human-wise, Talia Vedra, this has already been spoiled mostly on Warhammer Community, but she's a big 15 wound monster. Her move is variable, but she's got a 4+ save and 8 bravery. Her Leonine Jaws to hit can change from 2+ to 5+, and her Scorpion Stinger's damage can change from D3+3 to just D3 at the end of it all. She's a War Master, so if you do take her, you can still have a General, which means you can still get access to your command traits, you can get access to your abilities. I like all the named characters being War Masters, they really should be. And then her Manticore, which I think is one of the coolest Manticore miniatures I've ever seen. I love this miniature. I do wish they did make her with a helm and not with a helm. I do wish they just made a version of this miniature that was a Free Guild Marshal on a Manticore. Like, come on. Like, just come on. Give me this as like a miniature I can use all the time without having to take a special character. She can fly. She's got a 6+ ward. She leads from the front. She's pretty stabby. 6 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1/2 damage. And then the Jaws, obviously, being 3 attacks, 2s and 3s with 3 damage. And then the big heavy hitters, the 2 attacks, 4s and 2s, -3, and D3+3 for the Stinger. So she has a grand potential of 12, 21, 33 damage if she gets all of her, if she maxes out. And a 6 board. So she's not, her point value is commensurate, I think. She's not too expensive for being that she's not that durable. But she is, where is she? I'm looking at behemoths here. She is 340, which is not that expensive for a 15 wound, 4+ save with a ward built in. While it's units within 3 of any enemy units, this unit can issue the rally command to friendly Cities of Sigmar units while they're within 3 of the enemy. In addition, it's a 4+ to get a guy back. So she gets 4+ rallies, which is cool, as long as she's fighting and she's within 3 of them. And then Unparalleled Tactician. If this unit's in a Sigmar army, when this order is being issued, this unit can be given 2 instead of 1, but they have to be different. And then finally, Paralyzing Venom. This unit can use the following Rampage. Pick an enemy monster that made a charge move this turn, is within 3 of the unit, roll a 3+, and it strikes last, because you sting it on the way in. And then she's Hammerhull Aksha, which means that she's an additional hero that can have 2 orders instead of 1, which is pretty cool. Other new heroes, we've got Pontifex Zenestra. She's, again, relatively inexpensive. Pontifex Zenestra. She's not a behemoth. She's only 150 points. So she's like Stormcast hero level. 9 wounds, 5+ save, 5-inch move, bravery 9. Carried around her little like spit. She's got her Scepter, just a 1 attack, 3s and 3s. Clubs and axes of the people carrying her are 3s and 3s with 1 damage. But then her whole thing is that she's hard to kill, and she's got the voice of the God King. So she's a 4+ ward. The unit can attempt to dispel an endless spell at the start of your hero phase, and attempt to unbind an enemy spell in the hero phase, but add 1 to their unbinding rolls. She's the Vessel of Sigmar. It's a prayer with an answer value of 3, and if answered, and this unit's within your territory, pick one of the following effects. Either Hallowed Ground, 5+ ward, where they're wholly within 18 of her. The Great Wheel turns, add 2 to the move characteristic of humans. This is all for humans, by the way. Nothing else gets affected by it. And then Cast Out Evil. Roll dice for each priest or wizard on the battlefield. Roll a 2+. That unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. So she's like a defensive aura for your half of the table. So she sits in your half of the table, and she either nukes things that come in, enemy priests and wizards. She adds the movement of the guys pushing forward out of your zone, and then she also gives 5+ wards with an 18 of her. So she's She's going to be pretty popular because for 150 points, she can have a big effect. And she has to pick 2 of those instead of just 1. So like 5+ ward blast things coming towards you is a pretty great ability. Good old flagellants. They're still flagellants. They're glorious martyrs. If you kill them, enemies within 3 can take a mortal wound on a 5. Free Guard Marshal, again, we already looked at his stat line a little bit when we were talking about adding the weapon attacks to him. But he flies. He's got his charging lance. He gets +1 damage and rend when he charges with his lance. The Blood Roar, when you do a monster rampage, you can target 2 enemies within 3 instead of 1. And then Tactical Acumen. If this army is in a Cities of Sigmar army, but once per battle, when the orders are being given to heroes, this unit can be given 2 instead of 1. So he gets the lady's ability, but just once per game. Very similar core stat line. Attacks in the Razor Claws go from 6 to 3, and Deadly Beak's damage goes from 4 to 1. His damage potential is 8, plus 12 is 20, and then it's variable based on the weapon, but you're looking at like 29 to 30, depending. And obviously, you can take magic items, could increase that too. The cool new Marshal, I love this guy. So he's got one of the following, either dueling pistols and a short sword, or Master Forged longsword, or an heirloom weapon. The dueling pistols get 4 attacks, 3s and 3s -1, 1 damage at 9-inch range. The longsword is 4 attacks, 3s and 3s -1, 2 damage. The Warhammer is 3 attacks, 4s and 2s -2, 3 damage. And the short sword is just 4 attacks, 3s and 3s -1. He can give a rousing speech once per battle. It's a heroic action. Pick 3 friendly Cities of Sigmar human units wholly within 18. For each unit picked, roll 2d6, and if it's less than their bravery. Until the end of the turn, models in this unit count as 2 for the purpose of contesting objectives. Now remember, you can take an army too where your bravery 10, if you want. Which is good because their bravery is not typically that high. It's usually 7, sometimes 6. Yeah, 6 for the wizards, 6 for the battle mages. Bravery 5 for Fusiliers, right? Like, bravery's not great. So yeah, 5 for Steel Helms. So you're gonna have some guys run away if you don't. And these guys, Attendant Relic Envoy, it's just a dude, but it's not actually like a miniature with a stat line. At the start of your hero phase, you must choose for this relic's, you see its Relic Envoy to attend the Marshal or deliver a message. If you attend the Marshal, you can carry an additional heroic action. In addition to anyone you can already do, so you can do the rousing speech and something else. If you choose for the Relic Envoy to deliver a message, unit wholly within 12, until you start your next command phase, the next time they receive a command, it's not going to cost your command point. So just place him based on what he's doing. You can get a guy on a horse. He's got 2 extra wounds. He's got a Dragoon pistol, less shots, so it's 18-inch range though, but 3s and 3s -1, 1 damage. The longsword is basically the same, 3s and 3s -1, 2 damage with 4 attacks, and then the steel shot hooves are 4s and 4s and 1 damage. For Sigmar Charge, when the finest hour heroic actions carried out with this unit, in addition to the normal effect, until the end of the turn, add 3 to the charge rolls for friendly Free Guild Cavaliers wholly within 12 of him. And then run down the foe. The strike first effect applies to this unit if it made a charge move in the same turn. In addition, in the combat phase, if this unit made a charge, pick a friendly Free Guild Cavaliers unit wholly within 12, and they can fight immediately afterwards. So he has a bodyguard ability, basically. And then the Alchemite Warforger, he also comes in the box set. He's a wizard, cast 1, unbind 1, and in addition to his normal spell, he also has Transmutation of Lead. Oh, sorry, if you pick a spell from the Lore of Collegiate, it has to be Transmutation of Lead. So he kills guys. Bravery 6, 5 plus save, and a 5 wounds. He's got his little Tong Staff, though, for 3s and 3s, -1 D3 damage, 2-inch range, and 3 attacks. He's got a Runic Crucible. At the start of your hero phase, you can say this unit will either stoke or expend the power of its Runic Crucible. If he stokes it, he's +1 to cast. If he expends it, it cannot cast any spells, but you get to add 1 to save rolls for human units that are wholly within 12 of him. And then Blazing Weapons, casts on 7 and a range of 12, so he knows that and Transmutation of Lead. He's a metal wizard, basically. And if you cast it, pick a friendly Cities of Sigmar unit that's wholly within 12. While that unit has a Blazing Weapons, each modified 6 to hit causes a mortal wound in addition to normal damage. So he's a mortal wound generator, which is great. Battle Mages, cast 1. They can have arcane trinkets. You can pick one of them for they have to all be different, but you can pick one, and they're actually on the models typically too. Ancient Grimoire is +1 to cast. Eldritch Hourglass is a 5+ ward. Enchanted Blade is +2 attacks. Ensorcelled Skull is 1 to unbinding rolls. A Realm Stone Orb is add 6 to the range of their spells. A Ritual Dagger, once per battle you can draw blood. They take a mortal wound. They cannot be negated, but they can cast an additional spell, and then a spectral potion. Once per battle in your hero phase, you can uncock 2+. The enemy unit within 12 takes D3 mortal wounds because like a wizard or a ghost comes out and attacks them. So they're neat, just basic little mages, and they're not that many points. Battle mages are 100 points. The one on Griffin, it's the same Griffin stat line, but with a beast staff, because he's a beast mage. He has to know wild form because he's from that college, obviously, and he can fly. He's two-headed. If an unmodified hit roll with the beaks is 6, it takes 2 hits instead of 1, because both heads hit you. And then Gurish Ferocity, add 1 of the damage of its razor claws and twin beaks if it's targeting monsters. Finally, Amber Spear is a spell, cast on 7. If you cast it, pick a point in the battlefield within 18 of the caster and draw a straight line to the closest point of the caster's base. Roll a dice on each unit that was passed over on a 2+. They take D3 mortal wounds or 3 mortal wounds if they are a monster, because he throws the spear. So again, I'm not going to go through too much more of the stuff that already exists because I want to focus on the new units. So let's talk about the command core. This is basically a Gobapalooza for humans, which I think is hilarious. They are formed of an Arch Knight, a Whisperblade, a Great Herald, a War Surgeon, a Soul Shepherd, and a Mascot Gargoylian. The Arch Knight is armed with a Enchanted Rapier. The War Surgeon has a Soul Shepherd armed with assortment of weapons, and the Mascot Gargoylian has a Gargoylian Bite. So you get like cool like hero posse. I love the design of these guys. This guy with his little like helm. This dude piping with its little like weird Crypt Keeper ghost. The weird dog monster, and then this like a spy assassin. They all have 3 wounds and a 4+ save, bravery 7. The big guy's got a great weapon. It's 3s and 3s -1 D3 damage with 4 attacks. The assortment of weapons are just 2 attacks, 3s and 4s, 1 damage. And the Enchanted Rapier is 1 attack, 2s and 2s, -3 D6 damage because he's an assassin, which I think is really cool. The Gargoylian Bite's just 3 attacks, 4s and 3s, -1 D3 damage. They're actually fairly fighty. They have a totem while the Great Herald's still alive. The Marshal's Retinue. At the start of the first battle round, before determining who has the first turn, you can pick a friendly Free Guild Marshal and Relic Envoy in the battlefield. The same one cannot be part of more than 1 Free Guild core, and they have a 4+ ward while within 3 of this unit. The Sawbones, you can use this ability while this unit has a War Surgeon. At the end of your hero phase, you can pick 3 friendly Cities of Sigmar human units wholly within 12 of this unit. For each unit picked, you can either heal D3 wounds allocated to them, and if no wounds have been allocated, you can return a number of slain models with a combined wound characteristic of D3 or less. The Whisperblade will let you dispatch spies. While you can use this ability while you have a Whisperblade. Once per turn, you can, when the enemy issues a command, you can say that the Whisperblade will attempt to disrupt it. If you do so on a 4+, the command is not received, but it still counts as being used, and the command point is lost. Each time the command is issued, no more than 1 attempt to disrupt it can be made. But so like multiple units of these guys won't give you multiple rolls. We got Sound the Advance. You can use this ability while the unit has a Great Herald. Add 1 to the charge rolls and run rolls for your human units within 12 of him, if they're wholly within 12, sorry. In addition, when a friendly Cities of Sigmar human units wholly within 12 of any friendly units that have a Great Herald retreats, add D3 to its move characteristic. And then Tune of the Corpus Somni. You can use this ability while the unit is a Soul Shepherd, which is this weirdo. In the Battle Shock phase, each time a model in this unit flees from a human Cities of Sigmar unit, on a 4+, they don't flee. The same unit cannot be affected by the same ability more than once in the same phase. So basically, no matter how many of these guys you have, you only get 1 of those rolls. Finally, we've got the Steel Helms. So this is your core base bog unit. Now this would replace your Spearmen, your Halberdiers, or your Swordsmen in your old Empire army. So any of those models could represent these guys, I guess, if you're using an older miniature collection. 1 wound, 4+ save, 5-inch move, 5 bravery. They have Free Guild weapons, 2 attacks, 4s and 4s. You can have a Sergeant at Arms for an extra attack. You get 10 or more models, get +1 bravery for their Herald. And then a Battle Priest. 1 model in this unit can be a Battle Priest. So you can consecrate the land at the end of your movement phase. If this unit includes a Battle Priest, you only get 1, no matter how big it is. If it's contesting an objective, it can consecrate it. On a 3+, that objective is considered by you to be consecrated. And friendly Cities of Sigmar units have a 6+ ward while they're on it. If you opponent gains control, it's no longer consecrated. And then finally, Hold the Line. Each time this unit receives all attack or all defense, you can pick another friendly unit wholly within 12 of them that hasn't received a command. They get the same command. So you can chain commands on the 2 units of Steel Helms. So a little bit of CP efficiency. I like that, and it represents the fact they're like well drilled. And then, as we said goodbye to the dudes on Demigryphs, we now have Free Guild Cavaliers, 2 wounds, 3+ saves, and bravery 7. They've got Cavalier weapons, so again, you can use any Empire Knights for these. 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 damage, and then the Arch Knight's Blade is 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, -2 damage. Their hooves are standard horse hooves, 2 attacks, 4s and 4s. The champion gets a cavalier weapon instead of its normal weapons. No bonus attack, just gets that profile. And then a standard bearer for every 5 models in the unit. On a devastating charge, if they charge, they get +1 damage, and they improve their rend by 1 on their cavalier weapons. So just nice bog standard knights, and the models are so cool and weird. I'm excited to paint them. All right, into the weird iron weld stuff. So this is going to replace your great cannon and your handgunners, although I guess you could technically use crossbows probably for it as well. Same stats as the basic guys, but they have 2 forms if they're fortified or not fortified. Remember, you can use an order to move them and still stay fortified. If they're fortified, 24-inch range, 2 attacks, 4s and 4s -1. If they're mobile, then it's 12-inch range, 1 attack, 12 attacks, 4s and 4s -1. So your range doubles and your shots double if you sit still. Give them an order though, and they do the same thing. Brace pistols on the champion, 9-inch range, 4 attacks, 3s and 3s -1 damage. And then bayonets, they're basically the same weapons as the steel helms have, but 1 attack instead of 2. Your champion adds 2 to the attacks of its fusel cannon, or you can give them a brace of pistols. And then standard bearer, 1 in 10 can be a standard bearer. You have the Fusileer's Fire. Each time a model shoots with a fusel cannon, if it's in a fortified position, use that characteristic, otherwise use the mobile. And fortified position at the start of the battle if this unit's in a fortified position. In addition, at the end of your movement phase, if this unit remains stationary and was not set up in that phase, it can establish a fortified position. Once this unit's in a fortified position, it remains so until it moves. And then resupply run. Once you're battle at the start of your shooting phase, in the 3rd or subsequent battle round, you can say they will resupply with their Black Powder Squire. If you do so, it can reroll hits for attacks made with missile weapons by that unit until the end of the phase. So 3rd turn onward, you can reroll misses by having the Squire go get more powder. Then you get your cool new character, the Ogre Fusel Major. So the Warhawk guy. He's got a 5-inch move, 3+ save, 8 wounds, and bravery 7. He's tougher than the other free killed guys, which is funny. His big long gun has 3 shots, 3s and 3s -1 D3 damage, and the Warhawk has 3 attacks, 3s and 3s -2 D3 damage. He's got a crack shot. If the unmodified hit roll for a 6 with the long fusel, you can say it's attempting a crack shot. If you do so, the attack sequence ends, and after all the unit's attacks have been resolved, you can roll a dice for each crack shot attempted. For each roll that is at least double their wound characteristic, pick a model to be slain. So you can shoot netters out of goblin units, you can shoot sergeants, whatever you want. And it's slain. Right, you just have to roll a higher, at least double, sorry. So you need to roll a 4+ to kill a 2-wound model, or a 2+ to kill a 1-wound model. Or a 6 to kill a 3-wound model. So nothing bigger than that, but you could just straight up kill like models of units. Very handy for nets and stuff. Rangefinder, at the start of your shooting phase, you can pick a friendly cast light unit wholly within 12 of this unit and roll a dice. Until the end of the phase, actually really handy to kill certain Lumineth unit leaders too, stops them from being mages. At the start of your shooting phase, you can pick a friendly cast light unit wholly within 12 of this unit and roll a dice, and that's these guys. Until the end of the phase, the range characteristic of that unit's weapons is increased by a number of inches equal to the roll. You can't target them more than once with that ability. And then fortified positions, same thing as the Fusiliers. If they don't move, they can set up the fortified position at the end of the turn. And once they're in that, they can ignore negative modifiers to their save rolls for missile weapons, because the Warhawk basically turns into a little castle. And then you get your Great Cannon. All right, so that's got the Cannonball Shot, which is 2 attacks, 4+ to hit, 2+ to wound, -2 D3 +2 for a cannonball, and an Armor Piercing Shell is 2 attacks, 4+, 2+, -4 D6 damage. So it's a little more randomly damaging, but man, -4 and 2+ to wound. And then finally, if you need to point defense, 12-inch range, Grape Shot, 5 shots, 3s and 3s, -1, 2 damage. Good like Stormcaster, Chaos Warrior killer. And then finally, Tools and Sidearms, 2 attacks, 4s and 5s, 1 damage. Shot and Shell, each time you choose it to shoot, you gotta pick one. And then Fortified Position for this one, you can ignore negative modifiers for missile weapon shots. So it keeps its 4+ save when it's like set up. Steam Tanks, they're not monsters anymore. 12 wounds, 2+ save, so no degrading, which is nice. The Steam Gun is basically the like flamethrower, or no, sorry, the Steam Cannon is the big gun, and the Steam Gun is the flamethrower thing. 24-inch range on the cannon, 4s and 2s, -2 D3 +2. Steam guns are 2d6 shots, 3s and 3s, just 1 damage. And the long rifle is 1 shot, 4s and 2s, -1 D3 damage. Repeater handgun on the top guy, 12-inch range. So it adds basically the steam gun. Or you can give him the long rifle, one or the other. So it's 3 shots of 3s and 3s, -1 damage, or 1 shot, 4s and 2s, -1 D3 damage. You can give it some extra stuff like more pressure. In your hero phase, you can say they'll put more pressure on. If you do, roll 2d6. If it's less than its current wound total, then the unit suffers no damage. Otherwise, it takes D3 mortal wounds. If the roll is equal or greater, pick one of the following units. Wait, hang on. If the roll is less than the number of wounds currently allocated, okay, not its remaining wounds. I was getting backwards. I was like, how if I roll? It's okay. So it's not less than its wound characteristic. It's less than the wounds allocated to it. So if it's 0, you're just fine. Otherwise, you're picking that. That super confused me for a second there. So power the wheels. You can run and charge. Power the guns. Add one of the attack characteristics of its steam cannon or D6 to its steam gun, which is basically just like you're making those guns more powerful. And then Division Commander. This unit can issue 2 commands in the same phase. If it does so, each command must be received by a friendly steam tank. And then Steel Behemoth. After it makes a charge on 2+, pick an enemy unit to take D3 mortal wounds within 1 inch. Steam tanks are the same, more pressure, Steel Behemoth, and then power the wheels, power the guns, but none of the hero stats or the top guns. Now, this might be the coolest looking unit in this new release, the Wildcore Hunters. I cannot wait to paint these because they're basically a Mordheim warband. Oh, they're so cool. 1 wound, 5+8 bravery, fire. They get crossbows or arbalists. The warden also has a ferocious bite because he's got his hunting dog. 4 in every 11 models must be trailhounds that have ferocious bites, and then 1 in every 11 models an arbalister and has the arbalist guns. The hunting crossbows are 2 shots, 4s and 4s, -1/1 damage. The arbalisters 2 shots, 3s and 3s, -2 D3 damage. Hunting weapons are just regular steel helm weapons, and the ferocious bite gets an extra attack and wounds on 3s. They're expert trackers. They can make a normal move but can't run after the deployment phase. And then hidden and dangerous. This unit is not visible if it's outside 12. In addition, improve the range characteristic of its missile weapons by 1 while it's in cover. What a cool little unit. I mean, I don't know how effective they're going to be, but they're a cool little shooting unit. They have decent, like their unit size is deceptive because they're going to have 4 hounds and 5 guys, right? And then Arbalister, but the model looks really cool. Like, I just want to get these to paint. I don't really even care what they do. They're so cool. We get the Warband and the extra Witch Hunter. So Hexbane and his Warband, and then the 2 Van Densts, who are the we didn't get into Cursed City, but we're definitely from Cursed City models. Hexbane's, I didn't notice anything really different with him, although you guys can probably look and see something maybe slightly different. The Galen's and Doralia Van Densts, I didn't see that much different either. Both have 5+ wards. They have their weapons of banishment if they target a wizard demon. And they can also attack endless spells. And then we're into the Dispossessed. So we got our Warden King and Rune Lord, as well as the Cogsmith are our 3 heroes. Their stats didn't change very much. Variable damage on the Rune Hammer still, and the Forge Hammer. He's got 5 attacks, he's got 3 attacks. He can still unbind. Forge Fire casts on 4 and range 18. Prayer, it's answered on 4 and range 18. Pick a Dwarven unit, wholly within range invisible, and improve their rend by 1. I think that's pretty much the same as it was. Fearless Leader. In the combat phase, after this unit's fought, pick a Dwarven unit that's not fought but is within 3 and wholly within 12, and they fight immediately, so he can back-to-back somebody with like the Hammers, the Longbeards. And then still an Ancestral Grudgebearer. If this unit's picked to be your general at the start of the battle round, you can pick an enemy unit to be grudged. If you do so until the end of the battle, if the unmodified hit for models of 6, the attack automatically wounds. So hits of 6 auto wound. Longbeards and Hammers, still just 1 wound each, 4+ saves. The Hammers are Bravery 7, but they get the 4+ ward if the Warden King's nearby. 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1/2 damage. They're nice and hitty. And then the Longbeards, I wish they had shields. Oh, they can, sorry, they can still switch to shields for a 3+ save. And then each time a friendly model would flee from a friendly Cities of Sigmar Dwarven unit, wholly within 12 of them, on a 4+, they don't. They're just giant banners. Weirdly, the Hammers don't get command, even though the plastics still have command models. I wish they got command. I don't know why they don't. Iron Drakes, torpedoes are 18 inches, 3s and 3s, -2 D3 damage. Drake Gun, 15-inch range, 3s and 3s, -1/1 damage. The pistols, 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1. Get their 4+ plated fists. They can still blaze away, +1 their attacks if there's no enemy units within 3 of them. And they didn't move, so they sit still, they get +1 attack. Still their Cinder Blast Bomb once per battle, 2+ D3 mortal wounds, and damage 3 on the torpedo if it targets a monster. Iron Breakers, 3+ saves. Still get a Cinder Blast Bomb. Still get their Shield Wall for a 4+ ward instead of a 5+ from that order. And And they get command. I don't know why the hammers don't get command. It's just weird to me. Cogsmith. He's got a free arm. Add one of the hit rolls for attacks made with this unit's missile weapons if it's not armed with a cog axe. Add one of the hit rolls for its grudge raker if it's melee weapons if it doesn't have a grudge raker. So it's +1 to hit or +1 not. It doesn't have variable damage, which is nice. And then direct the gyro core can issue commands to friendly gyrocopters anywhere on the battlefield. That is very cool because he's got his little like walkie-talkie. And then the gyrocopters, 4 wounds. They're weirdly not that tough. 4 wounds, 3+ save. The brimstone gun has 3 attacks, 3s and 3s -1d3 damage, and the steam gun's 2d6 shots. And it's one or the other. And the 3's 1 damage. You can still do guild bombs once per battle after they make a normal move. Pick something they flew over on a 2+ take d3 mortal wounds. They both get that, the grudge busters, but the grudge buster isn't once per battle. It's all the time. And they get an extra wound, but they're slightly more expensive. Clouder gun's 5 attacks, 3s and 3s -1/2 damage. The bomber's just objectively better, I think. Whereas the gyrocopters are units. So the bombers are individuals. I think the gyrocopters are units. Let me double check. 1 to 3 for 80 points each, that's right. Or 240 for 3. There's no discount, which is really funny. All right, we're into the elfy stuff. The sorceress on a black dragon. 14-inch range, 5+ save. Bravery 7, Noxious Breath. 9-inch range. Yeah, it's got various for its Noxious Breath, so it's 2+ down to 5+. Razor Sharp Claws attacks go from 6 to 3. Casts and Unbinds 1. Command Underlings can issue the same command up to 2 times per phase. If it does so, each unit must be Darkling Covens, and no commands are spent. The second one. The attack for Noxious Breath is equal to the number of models in the target unit to a maximum of 10. And then Bladestorm casts on 6, range 18. Pick an enemy unit within range and roll 9 dice. For each roll, it's less than their save. That unit suffers a mortal wound. So you can do bladed at mortals. Blackguard, still 1 attack, 4+ save, 3+3 +1/1 damage. Steel and Sorcery, get a 4+ ward while within 3 of any friendly Sorceress unit. So you kind of still get a Phoenix Guard unit if the Sorceress is nearby. The basic Sorceress gets Word of Pain, cast on 7, range 18. Pick an enemy unit within range invisible for d3 mortal wounds. And they're -1 to hit. Yeah. And then your Bleak Swords and your Executioners. Bleak Swords are just your basic swordsmen. 2 attacks, 4s and 4s. Quicksilver Strike. If they hit on a 6, they do 2 hits instead of 1. Standard and Commander are all basically the same. Executioners, damage 2. 2 attacks, 3s and 3s -1. And then they get a hit on a 6, they do 2 mortal wounds, and the attack sequence ends. So still mortal wound generators, but a 4+ save and 1 wound. Your Dark Shards, 16-inch range, 2 attacks, 4s and 4s. If you have 10 or more models, they hit on 3s. Dread Spears, they get +1 to hit rolls for attacks made by this unit if they make a charge in the same turn. If the enemy unit charged them in the same turn, because they set to charge. And then your Dreadlord on a Black Dragon, this is your big fighter. He's got a Repeater Crossbow and Noxious Breath, 14 wounds, 4+ save, Bravery 7. Noxious Breath is the same as the Wizards. And he can either have Exile Blade and Tyrant Shield, Exile Blade and Repeater Crossbow, Lance of Spite and Tyrant Shield, Lance of Spite and Repeater Crossbow, or paired Exile Blades. So the paired blade is 6 attacks, 3s and 3s -1/2 damage. The Exile Blade is 5 attacks, 3s and 3s -1/2 damage. The Lance is obviously going to get the Lance charge for +1 damage and +1 wound, so it'll be damage 3 and -2 with 4 attacks. And then Fearsome Jaws, 3 attacks, 4s and 3s -2d3 damage, and Razor Sharp Claws, 4s and 3s -1/2 damage. You can roll your Order Serpentis charges if you're within 12 of them. And that's really it. His shield gives him unmodified save rolls of 6. Automatically pass, regardless of any modifiers. I just give him +1 save. That's a weird rule. 6s always pass. War Rider's not a monster. Although it is a monster, it doesn't have a damage tree, which is cool. 12 wounds, 4+ save, Bravery 6. Breath is always going to hit number of models in the unit up to 10. 2s and 3s -1/1 damage. And then at the end of the combat phase, you can heal up to 5 wounds allocated to this model, because it just grows back. What a tar pit that thing is. How many points is it? How many points are you, Tar Pit, War Hydra? Battle Mage, Dreadlords. Oh, he's not a behemoth. That's why. Oh, no, he is. Yeah, he is a behemoth. 180. He's cheap, man. Holy moly. Your Drakespawn Chariot is 10-inch move, 6 wounds, 4+ save, 4 attacks, 4s and 4s, 1 damage, barbed spears, and ferocious jaws. He scythes runners. After you make a charge move, pick an enemy unit and roll 2 dice for each model within 3 of a model in that enemy unit. For each roll of 2 to 4, they take a mortal wound, and on a 5, they take 3 mortal wounds. If the enemy unit's picked within 3 of any Drake Spawn Knights units, add 2 to each roll. So they double in with the Knights, basically. Knights have 2 wounds, 3+ saves. Lance charge, same as normal lance charge. Yeah, 3s and 4s. Ugh. Ugh, give them 3s and 3s, come on. And 2-inch range. Dark Riders, are they still wizards? They are not. Oh no, I'm thinking of Warlocks, never mind. They are not, because the Warlocks, it's the same miniature kit. The Warlocks are in the Daughters of Cain. We're looking at repeater crossbows, barbed spears, and vicious points. Your assassin can still be in the unit, hidden murderer. While this unit's within 3 of a friendly elf unit that's got 3 or more models, it's not visible, so you don't actually have it go disappear anymore. Gets first strike when it charges. Wound rolls of blades are 6. The target takes D3 mortal wounds. The attack sequence ends. And it's got 6 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 damage. The Fleet Master. Murderous Swashbuckler. Unmodified hit roll if the melee weapon is a 1. For when people target him, he takes 2 mortal wounds. So if you attack him and you roll a 1, you take 2 mortal wounds. And at them you curse. When this unit issues all attack to Scourge Privateers, add 1 of the attack characters to that unit's melee weapons in addition to the normal effects. So it's +1 to hit and attack. And then the Corsairs have 5+ saves. They don't get anything for their cloaks anymore. If you attack them and roll a 1 to hit, though, in melee, you take a mortal wound to get their parry. And then it's repeater hand bows, or 9-inch range, 2 attacks, 4s and 4s. Vicious blades, and it's either two bows or bow and sword, which gives you a vicious blade or a paired vicious blade. Your Scourge Runner Chariots. Lalo the Beast, the damage of the harpoon is 3 if you target a monster, so the gunners are pretty cool with the big harpoon. And the Charybdis, 12 wounds. You cannot receive Inspiring Presence or Rally within 12 of it. And then it's got Fang Tentacles, 5 attacks, 4s and 3s, -1, 3 damage. And then its Spiked Tail is 3-inch range, D6 attacks, 3s and 3s, 1 damage. Yeah, and it's not that expensive again. It's only, War Hydra is 180, the Charybdis is 160, so super cheap by the comparison. And that's looking like it. So again, I'm not gonna go through point values. I've already commented on the ones I think are relatively interesting, but there they are. And big changes for Cities of Sigmar. I don't know what the general consensus is gonna be, but I'm fine with model ranges being reduced. I don't think it's a big problem. Obviously it happens over time, but it does mean there's less to manage. I think the upside for me is you can use most of the human stuff you still have elsewhere. I do feel bad though for the folks that had big Wanderer or Phoenix collections, because obviously they were big elements left over from the world that was. But yeah, time marches on, and while this was a big melting pot, I think that this gives them a little more human-like focus and new miniatures. I'll be honest, set in the Age of Sigmar that are more like the software underbelly stuff is a good thing. I'm excited to paint them. I will say that the focus is fairly shifted, but the book looks like fun overall, I think. While you can still take pockets of dwarves and elves in your army, you're probably going to mostly use the new models as they'll match up the best. And I have a bit to paint, so I've got some dark elves to paint and some dwarves to paint to go with this stuff, and I can probably do a fairly cool melting pot army relatively quickly to try out. So big thanks for watching. We'll see you for more GMG reviews. Until I'm Ash, happy gaming. Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that video. There are tons of other games already recorded for you to watch. Click over to my channel page if you haven't already, and have a look to the dozens of playlists full of videos. I guarantee you'll discover a game you haven't seen played before. I put out new videos 7 days a week, and every day is themed to a different genre as I continue to explore the wider world of gaming. Of course, none of that's possible without you, the viewer, so click a like and subscribe if you'd like to stay on top of what's happening here daily. My 2 kids and I are massively grateful to be able to have the flexibility of this job so I can always maximize my time with them. If you want to support me continuing to put out this content, it's only possible because of my amazing backers on Patreon who support the studio, equipment, and model cost, as well as being how I make the bulk of my living. You can also help out by buying a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, a measuring gauge or widget from Death Ray Designs, or buying one of my games and supplements like Last Days, Gamma Wolves, and Blaster. As a way of showing my appreciation, patrons get early access to new games and supplements that I write throughout the course of the year. Huge thanks for watching, it really does help out, and happy gaming.